In this video, guys, I'm going to show you how to waterproof your shower, guaranteed to never leak. In this video, we're actually using a quick drain shower system where I got my drain right near the wall, okay? And we're going to be installing this membrane cloth on the floor. And I know you've all seen products out there, orange, red, white, and blue. It doesn't even matter, right? They're all about the same. This product here is amazing because the foam panels are so strong, they're almost like wood. If you didn't see that video, then check the video link. It's the previous video in this bathroom series. It's amazing, okay? I'm just in love with this product because you can customize your space and treat all of these foam panels like they're wood and screw them together too. Now, the membrane cloth, it's not proprietary technology anymore. Everybody's got their own cloth and it's all plastic. So it's on the permeability scale, it's right near the top. It's not as good as glass or steel, which is completely waterproof. It's close. And so the way we get it even closer, we're gonna use this cloth and apply some physics to make sure all the water drains to the drain. And then we're gonna apply some chemistry technology over top of that, and we're gonna waterproof the shower. So if you're gonna do a walk-in shower, make sure you're not gonna be the victim of flooding and water damage and mold and all that other mess. Follow the system and you can have a perfectly waterproof shower. And forget about the warranties that the companies are offering. They got no intention of honoring it. Fact is, these products work if you use them properly in conjunction with my secret technology. We'll get to that later. Let's just jump into it. We are using a combination of mesh tape that's designed for being embedded in the thin set, okay? Make sure you buy that in the right place. You're not in the drywall aisle. Be in the tile concrete board aisle for this material. Don't know the brand name because it changes depending on the store, okay? So just gotta make sure you got the mesh tape that's compatible with thin set, all right? We're gonna use this on all of our horizontal joints and we're gonna cover it in thin set. I'm using cement board that's been treated for water resistance. It's like protection on protection on protection. At the end of the day, it all just gets silly and it's a bit more of a mind game than you'd think out there, because the failure that happens in these showers is almost inevitably ledges in the corners and in the corners in the shower pan, okay? That's where the failures are. It's always in the corners. And it's because what they're doing is they're taking membrane and they're applying thin set and sticking membrane on that, okay? Well, here's a news flash for you. When cement gets exposed to water, it gets wet. Now, the properties of plastic, which is what these are made of, is hydrophobic. So there's a resistance to let the water in, okay? But if you make a little mistake and you get a little bit of a wrinkle, now that hydrophobic property is gone. So most homeowners who haven't taken the 3 days of on-site training from a company to teach you how to install this stuff make little mistakes. Any combination of just one or multiple little mistakes results in failure. That's just the way this is. Water will always get behind your tile. That you can be guaranteed of. And so the system of waterproofing has to be on top of all your base, in front of all your structure, behind the tile, that moves water to the drain, all right? And it can't have an area where you can have failure, because that will ultimately end up getting to the wood. And wood is like a sponge, and it draws the water. So now you have a resistant force, okay? But now you've also got an attraction force in behind the wall. Once that starts, the water will soak up the wood, and then it'll get so wet and it'll start to drip, okay? And it creates like a siphon. And once you've got that going on, by the time you see that little stain in your ceiling, in behind your wall, it's all gone bad, the mold is growing, and everything is out of control. It's always a shame because you put all that time and energy and money into these products, and if you don't do it 100% correctly, it fails. Really? I've got to build a shower like a brain surgeon who's not allowed to ever make a single mistake. Yeah, that's stupid. So we're going to show you the system. There are just a couple elements to it, and it'll make sure you're successful, okay? First, we whip up a good batch of thin set. Important, you use all set thin set by Schluter. Can't say this enough. I know it's a little more expensive, but here's the deal. This stuff works on all the foam board. It works on drywall, it works on cement board, it works for waterproof roll-on membranes, okay? It always works. So then you never get stuck in that trap of using the wrong thin set in an application, and then that's the reason for a failure, all right? So just put out the extra 20 bucks for the entire shower. That's an investment that's worth the money. And we're gonna take, in this case, I got RedGuard seam tape, which is basically fabric, and we're gonna use this in our joints, in our most susceptible areas, okay? Now, I don't have to go all the way to the ceiling all the time. These things ain't cheap. This little roll is like 40 bucks, okay? So use it where you need to. Look at this. Here's my shower head. Here's the water. All right? Oh, that's where the water goes. That's where you want the tape. All right, so just look at it this way. The water's coming down. This area is gonna get wet. This corner is gonna get wet. But way up there isn't getting wet. You don't need to put, $40 a roll seam tape. It's only 16 feet. 40 bucks a roll. You don't need to use it everywhere, just where it's really important. So you want it everywhere there's an interior or exterior joint that meets the floor. You want to have seam tape. So you want to use seam tape to connect the wall to the membrane, all right? And then everywhere else, you can just use mesh tape. And we're gonna just go like this. And might I suggest, always buy a pair of scissors for this. It looks a little silly, we're men. Why are we using scissors? Truth is, these work, and a utility knife doesn't. This is actually really hard to cut with a knife. So there's one joint there for me. I need one joint here for me. 3 feet here. No, that's not gonna be good enough there. Save that one for the back wall. Already, I've got a $30 bag of cement, $80 worth of seam tape. And I'll tell you right now, if you're not spending good money on your waterproofing, you're not waterproofing. You're just lying to yourself. This is not the time to try to save money, okay? Because what are you putting in here? $600, $700 worth of shower pan components for a custom walk-in shower? Yeah, right? All the hours that you put in, cement board instead of drywall, you're spending good money there too. This is not the time to be cheap. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, now. We're using a 3/16 V-notch trowel to apply the thin set. Okay, we don't need a lot. We just need enough to create a bond. Okay. And this is just to create a physical barrier in the cracks where expansion and contraction takes place. Now, that crease there. There we are. You want to have two. You want plastic knives for this, guys. Never work with your membrane with metal tools, okay? It's another big mistake that people make, all right? That's how you do it properly. You hold it in place, and then you press it out so it's nice and thin, really bonded, okay? There's always another joint. You just keep yourself clean as you go. Line it up, like that. Okay. All right. That's a nice tight corner. If you use two knives, you're not going to get rounded edges. You're not going to run into trouble when you go to use your tile. I'm just going to get the other 4 pieces done, and then we'll talk about the next step. Now, the next piece. We're going to do the inside and outside corners, of course, but the curb, niches, ledges, curbs, these sorts of things, they tend to be the weakness in almost every shower that's out there, because we want to put things on this shelf and not have them slide off into the shower. So we generally put about a 1 degree slope. A 1 degree slope does not force every drip of water off, okay? It always will hold a little bit of moisture here. And so if you have a weakness in your silicone, or you get an expansion, contraction from forced season climate, and water gets in behind the silicone, and it's also wet here, and let's say you got a shampoo bottle and it holds water, it doesn't dry out as fast as the rest of the shower. So it's kind of like a house. If you have bushes up against the siding, that wall is eternally wet. Same thing here. The things you put on this ledge are what hold water on the ledge. So consider, don't put things in the corners. That's the weak spot. All right, what I'm gonna do is I have a membrane here for the shower floor. It comes long enough for the whole 6 feet and goes up both sides. So I'm gonna steal a little bit because my shower isn't quite that long. And I'm going to make 1 piece of cloth from here over and down. So first I gotta measure that. So I have a 3.5 inch ledge, and I want 2 inches on each side. 7.5, we're gonna cut it at 8. Right there. There's my spot. And the way you want to cut this, you can get a straight edge, you can do all kinds of things. I am just going to take that mark, put my finger there, bring this across, make this perfectly level there. And that makes that square. I'll put in a crease in it, and then I can cut that line. That's really easy to do. You don't need to be all the way across, all right? Now we've got that. I'll set it aside. Okay. Now, here's a great opportunity to put a pre-slope in your pan. We're going to intentionally create a slope with our thin set. We don't want the slope with the tile only. If you can build a slope into your framing, then that's great too, right? You want to have a guarantee of a slope. We can build it right here like that. No reason we can't do that. Remember, it's one thing to have a slope on the tile, it's another thing to have a slope behind the tile. The waterproofing system should be able to function as a shower without any tile in the room. And as long as you're building with that mentality, you'll always make your system have enough integrity to keep things from failure. Sadly, a lot of people build out there with that mentality, if you can't see it, it doesn't matter. But in this case, this is why you're watching this video, because you don't want to have to trust somebody with something that's going to fail 2, 3, 5 years later. And then that $30,000 bathroom renovation turns out to be an entire waste of money. If you're not independent, you are dependent. And that is not where you want to be when you're dealing with your renovations. Remember, warranties and guarantees aren't worth the paper they're written on. Okay. Pull that down. This is how you can press that in without affecting the cloth here that you've made your slope with. Okay, one more time, I'm gonna just work this slope here. Not perfectly happy with it over here. There we go. And one of the reasons that people have failures in their showers is money. I got 4 corners here. You buy these things, they're about $5 a piece. It's just a piece of plastic, right? $5? Yeah, they're ripping you off because they know you need it. So what we gotta do, we gotta cut these to fit. And even when that goes on, that's too long, right? See that? Trust me, we'll wrap the outside later. This is not the time to be too long, it'll just make a mess. There we go, so that one's done. Taking off about 1 inch or so. And take off more because we don't have to go right to the corner because we're gonna put another one to cover the inside corner. All right, so we got that one. Let's get these both in first. And there's 2 ways to do an inside corner. Okay, you can use the thin set. All right, and this is the standard practice, everybody uses it. But there's one other way to do this. Nobody ever really talks about it. And generally it's because it's a little bit more expensive. It's also non-traditional, but it works. I'm gonna do one each way so that way you see the difference, okay? We'll do this inside corner with a thin set. I'll do the other one the other way. That sounds like fun, doesn't it? All right, so we're gonna press this in. Again, having these plastic knives is key. Get that edge set. Make that nice corner, that nice edge. Hold all that still. Get this little edge here. Okay. Okay. See how they wrinkle? If they're not perfectly square, okay, that wrinkle is dangerous. And that dent there is dangerous. Now watch this. I want to lift this to get rid of that dent. I don't want anything in behind here holding water. Right? Pull this one tight. Okay. And this is why this is so sketchy. See, everything's moving. Every time I pull one thing, something else moves. Okay? And you're always going to get a bubble, especially on a ledge, because this is not 90 degrees because we've got a 1 degree slope. So there's always going to be something here that's bubbling out, right? That's one system you can use. Here's the other one. You can use this American 57 stuff. You can use, what else can we use? We can use Loctite. What we do is we cover everything in this for the body, okay? There we go. That's how it's done. And you put your corner into that goop. Okay. You put the inside corner as well. And then you take your plastic knives and you hold this down and you spread the goop. Okay? And that's actually a little too long. Here we go. This is really goopy, by the way. And the body in the field. Here we go. We really want to have this goop in here. This is messy. Yes, it is, and it also works. You know, I'm a big fan of physics over chemistry, but there is no physics in a shower system available, so we are going to use chemistry. So I would rather rely on this adhesive bond than thin set any day of the week. You see that wrinkle? Again, we're having the same problem because this is not 90 degrees, right? So, here, I know this is going to blow people's minds. That is not a problem. You just simply set one line in it and you can overlap it. Okay? This sealant is not silicone. This stuff is so much more than a silicone. Okay? And it's messy, but it works. You can do the one you want. Now those silicone tubes, the Schluter Systems has Curdy Fix is what they call it. It's a very similar product. Almost probably the identical technology, to be honest with you. Nobody's got that. Nobody's got any advantage anymore when it comes to chemistry. It's just about the patent. Okay, so everybody's making the same product now. So that's two ways you can do your inside and outside corners, and you can make it as pretty as you like. But the point is this: this does not have any thin set bond. There's no way that water can work its way past that goo. Okay, so it's guaranteed waterproof. I'm going to finish doing some mesh tape and show you how to use that. And then we are going to get into putting down our membrane on our shower drain, because this particular system is the only one out there that has a membrane that goes like completely one piece on all floor and walls, which is awesome. Okay, and then we are going to talk about the secret ingredient to making sure that this waterproof system is then waterproofed. Okay, all of these pieces, all of these components, there's still room for man-made error. And so we want to take one more step at the very end to make sure that doesn't happen. Okay, so when you're working with this kind of like a product that you've never worked with before, I'm going to suggest that you watch the product installation videos from the manufacturer, okay? So you understand in a perfect world what it looks like and how it's supposed to go together. In a lot of cases when we're on site and we're working, we're not dealing with a perfect world, and we have to get creative and go outside the boundaries of what a traditional installation looks like, okay? Like for instance, for me, nothing here is square. Not even close. One of the things they say is you have to trim this green membrane thing back right at the metal, okay? Front and back. And if you've watched the installation video, you understand why this is such a crucial step. And if you don't, you might miss it. And then you're really gonna cause some trouble for yourself down the road. This particular drain gets installed with stainless steel screws. And that can seem somewhat counterintuitive, okay? And it also has 4 pins. These are important. Don't cause damage to these, okay? They're gonna be really important when we get to the next step of installation. So I'm going to wash this and set it aside, make sure it doesn't get any damage. And then I'm going to bring in my floor membrane. And because I have a unique shape that's out of square with a kick out and a bench, I'm going to try to roll it out sort of like I'm doing a vinyl sheet floor install. Start working my corners, marking off, cutting the pieces that are excess, and reduce this down to a proper footprint. Because you can see I've got a kick out here and I've got a kick out over here, and I got a bench that's not square to the rest of the shower, and it's a little complicated. So we got to make sure that when we go to put this sheet in, it's going to go in really easily, okay? Because we have to set it in thin set. So we want to pre-cut it first. Now, in the video, they suggest you do it in a wide open room, if you even have one. We're going to do it in place because that's all I've got to work with. And it has to be specifically cut to install so that I can fold it up and then set it in the thin set and smooth it out properly, okay? So, you know, in a perfect world, you can watch the manufacturer's installation. But if your world isn't perfect like mine, you're going to want to watch how I handle this. Knowing the complexities and the dangers of how to use the product are probably just as important as knowing how to install it in a perfect world. There we go. Just keep this nice and clean. Set this over here. So the secret here, of course, is to realize that we're going to want to have some of each side of this membrane going up the side walls here, right? Something like that. Okay? Get a good couple of inches of overlap. And that's nice. And we also know that we're going to be using inside and outside corners. So we are able to do this. We also want to have enough left over to wrap the curb. All right? So I like that. This corner looks nice. That's plenty of product. Okay. And in case I get confused, I'm going to just mark my corner here. Same on this side, because I'm going to take this out of the room and fold it. You'll see that in a minute. Once I get this membrane down and it dries, I'm going to come back and finish all the rest of my waterproofing, so don't hit me up in the comments. You know, it's fine, I get it. This is where it gets interesting, right here, okay? Because I can't do this. This has to be an outside corner. There we go. Okay, and then it has to come around this corner. So I got to do a relief cut here. There we go. Now my membrane can sit right there. That's not a problem. This will be the same thing. We'll just hit it with a marker. Okay, and the reason I'm drawing these huge lines is because I'm going to pull this out and I'm going to trim a lot of this down. I don't need an 8-inch overlap. It's just a real waste of time and space. But this is my end. There's my inside corner. And again, I take my trowel here. No, put a bit of a crease on that. There we go. All right. I'm also going to put a crease here so that when I lay it in, it'll actually go around the edge. So there we go. Now all I got to do is pull this back and cut off my excess, because this is a little ridiculous. I only need 2 inches. And if I have more than that, it's just going to cause me a lot of frustration trying to set it in. There we go. Same thing here. I'm going to go from side's probably fine the way it is. Okay, brilliant. Now, we want to start at this end. So we're going to fold in the inside. Okay. We're going to fold in to here. We're going to fold this in again. All right. And then we're going to take this out so that we can set this in the thin side. This area right here, where we cut that plastic, now we want to peel this back. Next step is very important. Grab your dude wipes. Okay? This should be on every job site, gentlemen, or you're not being a gentleman. Here we go. We're gonna just want to wipe this down. Make sure it is nice and clean. All right, and there's a really good reason for this, and that is we're going to be using thin set to attach the membrane to the green board. But right along this channel body, we're going to be using that sealant adhesive, okay? So you want to have a clean surface to work on here. Golden. Okay, now, I'm working in spaces like this. Again, the same 3/16 V-notch trowel. We're using just a little bit, okay? Don't use a larger trowel. If you don't have this size, go out and buy one. Your floor needs to stay flat. And if you install a membrane inside a shower floor that isn't flat, it's hard to get a really nice result with your tile. Okay? Now in this particular shower, we're actually using a pebble floor, so that I have to have something nice and flat, or it's going to be, I could have depressions and I could have water pooling. We don't want that. Now over here by the shower, you want to start about 1/4 inch away. Apply your pressure, and then you can come back to get the adhesive right up to the pan. So you start a little bit of a gap. So when you put pressure, it squeezes out, and you come back and get it right up to that edge. Okay? A little bit of practice. Don't be messy. It's all about keeping this job really clean. Don't worry about directional traveling here. Not important. Just want to make sure you get good, continuous coverage, and then we can set the membrane back into place. That is the last time that we're going to use this trowel, except for to do this. I want to get a 3 inches up here under control so I don't make a mess of that flange. All right. And if you make a mess, grab your dude wipe and fix it. It's not about being perfect through the process, it's about getting perfect result when you're finished working. Now, we want to put our adhesive on that line. Nice 3/8 bead. Don't leave any room for there to get all squeezed out. Okay? Arch right. Now, this is an important corner over here, right? You want to set it right into position, right out of the gate. Right into that adhesive. Here's the corner. Go. There we go. Nice. We'll unroll it. Should have pretty decent success here. Nailing all this in the right spot. Okay. This is where these plastic trowels are so important. Okay, now right underneath here, there's these little pins, part of the tray. Those 2 little anchor pins. We're going to come across until we hit these 2 anchor pins, and we're going to push them through the membrane. Now, those 2 pins are at the location where that adhesive went. So it's going to be sealed for life. That's not even a concern. Okay? We're going to take our knife and create a crease here. scissors. We're going to add an inside and outside corner here in a minute. So right now, having extra material here is no benefit. Lapping this once perfectly or 4 times makes no difference at all. Okay. Now, we're just going to smooth the rest of this thin set out. We're having an issue there because I installed this slightly off the line. Right? You see that? Now, here we go. We're just going to finish getting rid of the air bubbles, making sure everything is nice and tight. I got a pan that's in fresh thin set. What I want to do, I've got it all smoothed out now. Okay, I've got the adhesive engaged. I got everything the way I want it. Leave it the heck alone for a couple of hours, okay? Let this thin set up and get hard. You can even come back the next day. You don't want to be in a hurry. As soon as you put a foot in here, you're going to make an impression in a thin set, and now you've got a potential for water pooling. And in my particular case, because of my kind of stone, I don't want to have dips and valleys. It will hold water and won't drain well, because I like to set myself up for success. Trying to do too much at once usually leads to failure when you're dealing with waterproofing. All right, the next part of the installation, now that we've got the mat down, I want to use this collar. Now this is where the technology gets unique. We have a waterproofing surface here. And in theory, I could just cut out the drain area, okay? But then by just doing that, then we're relying on the tile and the tile edge to do all the work. What the collar does here is it gives us something to grout to, and it stabilizes the grout around the drain, okay? So this is why this is important to stick in. Now these locator pins that are right here, okay, so that's the locator pin, and it needs to go into this hole. And these pins are designed so that this body sits square over the drain, right where these holes are lined with the holes in the drain to be clamped together. I'm out about 1/4 inch. Okay, so I gotta go over and modify this bracket here now. And that's not a big deal, all right? I'm just gonna take off a good 1/4 inch. I'm gonna round the edges as well so I don't penetrate the membrane during install. And that's the key. Anything can be modified. Keeping in mind the spirit of this technology is to provide a solid edge to grout up to, all right? And then we're gonna cut the channel that goes inside here, the decorative grate. As long as I maintain the connection here, this will be perfectly aligned, and I can screw this down into that body that we installed into the hard foam earlier. All right, so let's go grind it and get this shortened up, and then we're gonna install the rest of our corners for our membrane here in the inside area, and then we can install this part as well. Might as well just do that now while I'm here. So, real quick, while my thin set is still good, get the waterproofing system in place here for the corner. Got this one over here. Find my locate my pins. Here it is. Okay. This is a really nice corner. I like this. It's a curb detail corner. And this next one does all the different sides of the curb from a top-down perspective. That is a really nice detail this company's put together. Really good engineering. problem with these kinds of things, right? I don't know about you, but they make it always look so perfect. In the real application of these products, anything that's out of square causes these bubbles. And so the only way to deal with them is after the product dries, you can seal them up. Don't spend all day long fighting with it. If it's there, it's there, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's why you gotta have a system that goes above and beyond what the product is designed to do. Because in real life scenarios, nothing's gonna be perfectly square. You're gonna run into issues. So, in this video, we'll show you how to deal with the issues, not just how to deal with things when they're perfect. Okay, I don't need that. Let's go get the grinder out. We'll cut this down so we can get it to fit. All right, we're ready to go. I've got my regular grinder bit, metal cutoff wheel. Always have a look at it. Make sure it looks flat. If you see any warping in it, throw it out and get a new one. 99.99999% of all accidents are a result of a damaged wheel before you even start cutting. That's the safety. You'll see when you cut stainless steel, almost inevitably, you get this huge ridge. Okay, so that has to be ground down as well. And everything should be smooth, nothing sharp. Good. If it can't cut you, it's not going to cut the liner. Looking for the pin. Got it, pin there. Perfect. So that's the drain body. Now, let's just think about the concept here. Water gets under here, it's gonna come up to this drain body. The cloth is continuous right to the open drain. This is just to provide us some stabilization. Any of these drain hole screw holes that I put in here now are directly related to the concept of tightening this to the original drain body that has a position to receive that screw. What happens now is, after I screw this down, this is a little U-channel, okay? It's designed to hammer over top of this edge. So I can customize the drain to exactly the size of the hole, okay? Same thing with this. I can customize this exactly the size of the hole and cut it. And what that does is that gives me, they're designed in this product, drain body extensions, okay? So if you're buying one and it's gonna be bigger than what you're gonna use, you can check out the video from the company on that. It's really simple. You just cut it to fit, lay it in place, and then you're back in business. So what I gotta do now, get a drill. Okay. Now, we have this all in right position. I simply screw this all down. You just want to take alternating turns. Go this side to that side to this side, and then you can fill them in, okay? The idea here is you don't want to manipulate or end up warping this thing out of position. The only other thing I want to do, and I had to go out and buy my own screws today too, that kind of stunk. The package came with tons of screws, I know, but I had to go to Home Depot because I lost my little baggie. And that happens. I think what I want to do, cut this to size that fits so I can have it sitting in place while I'm attaching my valve, my drain body, so that I'm not pinching or going too much of a gap. That way I can make sure that it's going to look perfect when I'm done. So let's get her. I gotta leave room for the tile as well. And we're gonna cut right here. That'll work for this particular project. All right. Phase 2 complete. We're gonna finish putting in our screws here. Uh-oh. Bloody. Okay, I bought the wrong size. I got the right length, 1/2 inch. But these are number 6, and I need number 8. And of course, I already ripped out both packages open, so can't return them. That's just not grabbing. And I want compression. Yeah, that's just, I'm not happy. Here, watch, I'll show you. You'll know if your screw's the right size for the hole or not. It's pre-drilled, right? This will actually stop turning. So, there we go. Another trip to the store. Big surprise for Jeffrey. Is it just me, or am I the only guy that has to make 2 or 3 trips to the store every single day when you're working? Okay, go ahead. All right, now the chain body, the channel body stops here. Okay, but we want to have grout contact support all the way to this end. So they give you this piece that slides over the top. What we want to do is just get it as long and perfect as we can. Now there's going to be tile on both sides, so we got a little bit of mercy here. We're just going to mark these two, grind them back, and install them. That'll represent something in the chrome department that goes from side to side that covers all of that. So when you put the detailed channel drain cover in, everything looks very intentional. All right, that's really interesting, this thing. Go. Okay, so these just slide right over top. Right, so you can see the difference. Now I've extended the channel length from here all the way to the edge. Okay, there we go. Just stick it on that wedge there. Oh, that's the cut side, we'll put it on the other end. There we go. Yep, there we go, that's grabbing it. Oh, perfect. So I'm gonna throw this back in now just to confirm. All right. Okay. Now we can fill up the rest of the holes. Now you're probably sitting there thinking, hey, there's a weakness in your system there, right? Because now you're penetrating that membrane. Remember, the membrane is sealed. Oh. The membrane is sealed to the drain on the underside of that cloth, so it's actually bonded together. And what we're doing is we're throwing a screw, into a sealed compartment of that drain. So in theory, yeah, water could find a way in and out and around and down, but because these stainless steel screws don't degrade, and it's going through the sealant, it's kind of like a gasket. Now for perfection, which is what you want with waterproofing, we're going to need the next step. Because any system that you use to put in a shower is going to have failure rates based on integrity, experience, and the conditions of the shower. Just like this little thing right here. There's just no reason why that shouldn't be staying shut. Except, obviously, we're having an issue with the concept of 90 degrees here. Because nothing in this house is 90 degrees. And so when something requires something to be perfect or it bubbles, you've got to have a plan B. So here it is. All right, in all of the areas where you have concerns, you can use the sealant. Okay, so for here, fill it with sealant. Okay, for bubbles like this, fill it with sealant. And if I can't get rid of the bubble, then I just fill that shady part with sealant. That's all you got to do. All right, don't leave an air gap. So here's a gap. I'm not going to close it. I'm just going to seal it. There's a little gap there. I'm just going to seal it. That's how picky you want to be. You don't really have a choice. Now, even though it's going to be bubbled and bumpy, it's sealed. You're not going to force the material to not have a bubble, even with the sealant in there, okay? See that? Keeps coming back. So instead of trying to press it in, just cover it in sealant, okay, and let it be filled that way. All right, now anywhere you got a corner joint like this one, okay, here's a weak spot. Put the sealant on it, okay, and just make sure that there's, whoa, that's so nice and fresh. Make sure there's no way for water to find its way in behind there. This is just cheap insurance, right? Here's another bubble. Nothing's ever 90 degrees. Cheap insurance, okay? Just fill it. There we go. Now, once all this is dried and set up, then we can add our last layer of waterproofing. And so we're gonna give this a couple hours to set up, and then I'll show you the last step. So guys, we are in the home stretch. We're gonna be painting our ceiling. I'm gonna share with you a couple of secret tricks here. One of them is the product. This is a $27 gallon of ceiling paint for bathrooms that I trust. I've been using Glidden paints for years up in Canada. They sell it at Home Depot in the United States. I was amazed that it was so cheap, but hey, I don't get involved with the marketing. When you have a flat ceiling in a bathroom and you have an old fan, or a small fan like a 50 CFM, or no fan at all, you've got to include some protection for your ceiling material so that it doesn't get water damage and go moldy. What this is 100% acrylic paint, which means it's kind of like a vapor seal to a certain degree. It'll help protect that ceiling from damage. So that's why we're using it. We got a couple of issues here because we used to have the wall. This was part of the hot water tank room. So we got to pull out some kills. We got to prime that ceiling. Now, the good news about that paint is it is like a one coat coverage. I'm gonna really douse that sucker on there on that exposed edge. Make sure that it's gonna bond really nice with my finish, okay? There we go. A couple more spots back here. There we are. Woo! I got a couple of other considerations I gotta worry about. One of them is the hood fan, or the bathroom fan, the cover vent. This is an old Brown. There we go. It's the kind where the two wires pinch together and then you can release them. There we go. I'm gonna wash this up and then I'm gonna hit it with my Rust-Oleum Super White gloss enamel, okay? That'll make this brand new. As long as these little clips are and springs are working, there's nothing wrong with this fan cover. It's just ugly, so we'll make that pretty. So I'm down here in Florida working on the double wide. And I can't get a hold of the tray liners from my tray at the store. I'd have to buy them on Amazon or something. But I don't have time to order from Amazon today. I need a tray liner. And that is gonna do the job. I was in the Home Depot and they were selling tray liners for their trays. Their trays were $6 and the tray liner was $5. And I'm like, why even buy tray liners for the $1? Just buy a new tray. Here we go. I had them shake this up for me though, which was nice. And I got too much paint in my can still. You know me, I like to have about this much paint. So when I stab my brush in here, I can load the brush without filling the paint up inside this metal area here. Acrylic paint stuck in this area is what kills your brush. Okay, this can be washed. That is amazing. Got my Sherlock stick and my booster cage, they lock together. Nothing spinning around while you're working. Expendable. Expendable. We're gonna have a microfiber sleeve. Good quality sleeves don't need pre-washing or any other prep. Okay, not a worry. Now, that's all of my gear for this particular job. And if you wanted to get a hold of that gear, you can always check out the video description. We've got links to our Amazon stores and where you can get all of the products and tools that I use, okay? It's always nice to be using the same products as you're being trained on because every product has different nuances. Now we're gonna get up here and cut. Here we are, nice and simple. All right, I get to be a little bit on the sloppy side here because I haven't tiled yet, which is why I'm painting today. Part of my renovation process is do your painting before you tile. If you save it for the very end, you're gonna be cleaning up a lot of tile and a lot of grout. And because it's a flat paint, even though it's 100% acrylic, because it's a flat paint, it'll hide a lot of errors and provide you with a little bit of mercy. Okay, that's the whole idea. You just want to paint the first 2 inches around the edge, because that's the part where the roller is not going to reach. All right, now in these double wides, we've got these joints, and we're going to go give this 2 coats to make sure that all those joints get filled in. All right, here, see this little crack right here? I want that all filled with paint. I want to seal this up. And it might take a couple of shots at it before we get the kind of quality that we're looking for. Of course, having a great little workbench like this, so much better than working off of a ladder. Can't confess anymore how important and versatile this bench is. You got a workbench, you got somewhere to sit at lunchtime. For those of us like me who are vertically challenged, it helps you get to the ceiling and you don't have to climb up and down a ladder. I even have one of these benches back in Ottawa where the legs adjust so I can make it go up to 3 feet tall. Such a handy tool. Here we go. Now watch this. We dip, which loads it. That's a lot of paint, okay? And I clean off the sides. I still got a lot of paint. And I paint from inside the brush, okay? Not from outside the brush. The difference with this technique keeps you clean. So you're not slapping the brush against the can and sending paint flying all over the room. Now I know professional painters do it a little bit different, okay? They go like this. One dip, slap, slap real hard, and then they go. They're in a hurry. They're getting paid by the square foot, okay? They can afford to make a mess because there's no finishes in the house when they're in there painting. But if you're a homeowner, that technique is not gonna serve you very well. Because usually, when you're a homeowner, you're living in a home that's already fully functional with appliances and flooring and furniture. But if you paint like this, you'll stay clean, your house will stay clean too. Now in this scenario, I'm also going to use this kind of like a primer for this light box. I'm just going to get a coat on here. It's not a wood primer, but this is a painted surface. Okay, so I'm not too concerned. You can paint wood over wood, or you can paint latex over latex. And the age of this house is 1984. They didn't have oil paints anymore, so I already know that I'm safe to go ahead and do this. By the time the late 70s came around, though, the only place you'd find lead in paint was exterior paint. And they finally mastered the technology of putting some oil-based protection as an additive in the latex paints. So exterior paints could hold up. But I remember the early years of the 80s, man, those exterior paints were garbage, and they were still making houses with wooden windows. And you had to repaint your windows every 3 to 5 years. Most people didn't do it. It was too expensive. No one wants to get on a ladder and paint a window in a 2nd-story house every 3 years. So all the windows would just rot out, and that's why we ended up switching to vinyl. Now this is a 1-coat paint. I hate when they advertise that. I always paint 2 coats. I don't care what anybody says about the 1-coat thing. You're always going to miss something on your first coat. So best to have a 2nd coat and give yourself that mercy. Especially where I had the ceiling damage and I had to prime it. If the ceiling was in perfect condition, maybe I'd get away with 1 coat. Important to be very methodical with how you do this. Go clockwise or counterclockwise, or mark the wall when you stop, okay, so you know where you are. Flat paint on a flat ceiling is really hard to pick up. You can easily lose track of where you've been and where you're going. I'm going to show you the secret to how to load paint on the roller. First of all, if you hit part of it wet, it always rolls to the bottom. So as a painter, you might have experienced this at your house, and you roll it in, and then you go lift it up and bring it back to roll it in again, and you just keep on adding paint to the same side. So what you do is you set it here, and you roll the dry part into the paint. Okay? And then you can lift it up. And then you can start putting some pressure on it to load it up. Now this paper bag works really good. You just gotta hold the edge on with your foot so you don't drag the whole bag into that gallon of paint. There you go. Now you're gonna probably have to roll the first couple of loads before it really gets inside the roller, okay? So you're not gonna get the greatest coverage right out of the gate. Now, doing the cutting allows for that oil paint to dry. That is just wonderful. There we go. Yeah, that looks like it never was damaged at all. I'm just forcing the paint nice and deep in there. I want to be able to paint a thicker surface coverage. Let's just go right above our little light box here. It makes filming possible. Not enough to have to renovate in a foreign country, but I gotta work around camera crew and lighting crew and check batteries for my mic pack all the time. You know what? That's not too damn shabby for one coat coverage. The only challenge is it gets spotty right up in these little ridges, right? Right there. And I'm using a 3/4 nap roller. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll on a bit of an angle so I can force paint into those gaps with this thick nap. That actually helps a lot, but it's gonna take 2 coats. If this was a smooth surface, maybe we'd get away with 1 coat. I am thinking this is actually thick enough to stand on. It probably would work fine. Here we go. Yeah, and see, we have that. It's not getting the paint into those. I really want to seal that ceiling off, right? So I needed to utilize the extra paint to get there. And that's why I need 2 coats, guys, so that I can seal that up. I want to avoid the moisture from the shower getting into that attic or causing these ceiling tiles to start to go moldy. Because I know that the framing up in that attic is wood. And wherever you got wood, you got mold, just waiting to grow. It's in the trees, comes up through the roots in the forest. So the trick with it is if you keep the relative humidity of the wood down, then it won't grow mold. That's why it's important to seal your showers. Get those ceilings almost impenetrable, okay? There we go. Let's get some extra paint on here, and then we'll roll that out. Having a texture on the ceiling is actually making the painting process a lot easier. Oh yeah, look at that. Nice little swollen area there. Yeah. Okay. All right. So when you're at the store looking for paint, you go to the Home Depot, they're going to want to sell you bare. Okay, that's their highest profit margin. I swear they must make about $30 or $40 a gallon. This is 27. Look at me, clean as a whistle. I'm painting above my head on a ceiling with a 3/4 inch nap. Just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's bad. Doesn't mean it's a bad quality. For whatever reason, my favorite paint in Canada is being sold down here in the box store, and it's being marketed and sold as a cheap alternative if you don't want to have the good stuff, which is what they're selling, and they're presenting bare as the good stuff. All right, here we go, guys. We're loaded up, no drips, good quality paint. Now I'm gonna paint on an angle, more of a diagonal the second time, okay? Really making sure that I'm forcing that paint into all those little gaps. All right, and if I have to do a 3rd coat in order to get a proper seal, then that's what I'm gonna do. But I want this thing completely sealed up just like that, okay? Makes sense? The last thing we want to do with our waterproofing system, my waterproofing system, sorry, which is like miles ahead of anybody else in the industry, is to incorporate this roll-on membrane on the membrane that's over cement board. It's extreme, I know, but here's why. Every single opportunity that you have to fail with all these systems is eliminated as soon as you put a good membrane on, okay? This is something you want to do 2 coats of, and you're gonna want a knife. Oh, hey. You're gonna want to wear a couple of gloves. By finishing up with this membrane, what we get is we can use the brush along all these screw lines and seal those screws to the flange and eliminate the opportunity for water to get down there. I get to seal all of the mesh tape joints on the thin set. Yeah, and this makes a perfect coat, okay? I get to seal all of these little bubbles where I put my goop, okay? I get to seal all of my base corners, all my inside corners, all right? There's nothing here that I can't seal with this brush and apply a liquid membrane. Look at that. Now that corner that is being charged with the job of keeping the water out is also sealed. That's where this is valuable. Now you got layer of protection on top of a layer of protection. Okay, and we can do 2 coats of this, no problem. It's actually encouraged to do 2 coats. Gives you the thickness of the membrane that you're looking for. We're going to use a roller everywhere else, but I'm just demonstrating here. 1 coat will push the product into all the cracks. The 2nd coat will make sure that nothing ever finds its way past the membrane underneath. Now I don't have to roll the whole membrane, but here's where I like to be a little bit more different. It's like I said, you're going to put all this time and energy into putting a product in. Why not roll the floor too? What if in all of the work that you did, one time something happened, a sharp pebble or a screw on your shoe, all it takes, one hole, and you're shot. So why don't you take the time, no matter what's going on, and seal absolutely everything. Consider this. Everything you've done up to this point is just building the structure. Now you're putting the roof on. Now you're putting the roof on your house. You don't want to just put the roof on half of the house. You want to have this thing sealed up so tight, you know, you could be like Noah's Ark. There we go. Okay, now, that adhesive, quality stuff, right? But for my money, I get to actually look at a continuous physical barrier. This lets me sleep at night, knowing that I'm not going to have problems. Okay, and it goes on pink. When it goes dry, it's red. This is called Red Guard. Okay, you just can't go wrong. All those fancy corners, they can't compare with a good sloppy paint application. Okay, they just can't compare because now you can see it, right? Now you know that corner is never going to get wet because you put the membrane in. Problem solved. 100% guarantee every single time. The funny part is the Red Guard is actually the most affordable part of the whole shower build. So for an extra 50 bucks, you can add a membrane onto all of your work. Make sure every gap is filled, every crack is filled. This is more than just a hydrophobic, it does more than just push water away. This creates a permanently sealed membrane, like one great big rubber glove over top of your whole shower. If you're not sure if you got enough, just slather on another bit. No big deal. This ain't about being pretty. This is about being excessive. Wall tile has no problem bonding to this. Your floor tile will have no problem bonding to it. It bonds to the foam. It bonds to the cement board. It bonds to Schluter. It bonds to drywall. It bonds to anything. So whatever system you are going to use one of these membranes. Okay? All the weakest parts of the shower you can now protect with 2 coats of a product out of a bucket and never have to think twice about it again. Not a really big culprit when it comes to water damage. You're never going to get that one perfect anyway, all right? So don't worry about it. You got to have access to put the screws through. But watch this. Screw, protrusion. Now it's a rubber membrane, right? So, has a bit of off gas. Might want to work with the fan on. And the more you work with it, the looser it gets here. Do yourself a favor. When you're going to use this stuff, get a throwaway kit, okay? It's like $12, $14 at the store. Roller, cage, sleeve, and aluminum tray. You don't want to have to wash this stuff up, okay? You're not going to save this equipment. This stuff is nasty to work with. There we go. It's off casting like you wouldn't believe. It's kind of nasty, but it works. And that's the whole point, right? Now we got something that we can be confident with, because now if there's any pinholes in any of the applications of the cement, the thin set, the adhesive, the mat itself, it's all been eradicated. My eyes are burning. Make sure you have fresh ventilation, maybe even a mask when you're putting this stuff on. Cheers to next time.